right, welcome to Flip Flops, brought to you by TreefishEDU, where we are just three guys doing everything we can to make flip learning and personalized learning a little bit easier for all of you out there. So let me introduce you to our team today. So first off, we have Eric Geis. Take it away there, Eric.
My name's Eric Geis. I'm an EdTech coach, podcaster with Nick, and I recently got my doctorate in digital transformation in education.
And my name is Nick Johnson. I'm a high school chem teacher, also an instructional technology coach and co-host of Got Tech, the podcast with Geis. Most of all, I'm just an EdTech enthusiast, and I think I've got some cool stuff to share. I hope so.
Yeah, I think you got some cool stuff. And my name's Kyle Nemus, and I am co-creator of Classroom Q, named to Flip Learning 100 Global Leaders. And every episode, there's only two of us on the show. And so this episode, I am not one of those two, which means at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Nick and Eric, who are going to teach you some wonderful things and hopefully share some of their experience with you. So, all right, boys, it is all you. I'm out of here.
See you.
Yep. See you, Kyle. Thank you. And then for all of our listeners, you can probably figure out by the title of the show, Flipped Flops, that it's all about flipped learning. So I always like to start off with a definition of flipped learning and what it is and how it works, just in case some of you are new to this and maybe aren't quite clear on what it is. And for everybody else, just a refresher on the whole concept. So flipped learning, it's an educational framework, and it does just that. It flips the traditional style classroom around. Most people I find who've heard of flipped learning sort of have this oversimplified view where the kids are doing their homework in school and the schoolwork at home. And that's where the whole kind of flipped piece comes in. And that can be true. That is one way to think about flipped learning. But it can be so much more. The bigger picture and the way we like to think about flipped learning is essentially your kids don't have to listen to you lecture to gather course content. Now they can gather it digitally, typically with videos, and that's what we talk a lot about, is how to best do that. And if they're watching the content on videos, that means they don't have to be in class. They can do it for homework if you want them to. They can do it in class, but at their own pace, pausing, stopping, slowing down, speeding up based on their own unique needs. The real benefit to me is always that now you've got all this extra class time. It's free for what I like to call the fun stuff, the projects, labs, hands-on activities, discussions, group work, really for all the reasons that kids should be coming to school in the first place, the things they look most fondly back on. So you're just freeing up your classroom for more of those things. And I think that's kind of the best way to summarize flipped learning.
So what is Flip Flops? It's basically we take a look at flipped learning and some of the common mistakes that we've made along the way. And we kind of put a positive spin on it. We show you how to overcome these challenges or whatever flops that we've made, and then we go on from there. So today, I guess we're pointing out one that really shows you how much of a novice teacher I kind of moved myself back towards by making this one mistake. So go ahead, Nick, let me have it.
Yeah. So we're on to Geis for this episode of Flip Flops, and his flop was he let his Chromebook do more teaching than him, which essentially means, a lot of the time when people get started with flipped learning, and Geis, it seems like you made this mistake. You've got this vision that, well, I almost don't have to do anything now. Not to put words in your mouth. I'm sure you didn't take it that way, but we'll see. But all my videos are there. The kids are watching them, and maybe we'll check in a couple times. But there it is. There they go. The test is next Friday. Good luck, everybody. And I don't want to put you down too much because I did a similar thing myself with one of my earlier flipped units where I just kind of pushed out all these materials to the kids, and they were great, and just let them go. And I sat at the front of the room and sort of waited for them to come see me when they needed help, and I thought it was awesome. But there was a lot that was lost in that. So I'm going to sort of let you describe where you went wrong with this specifically in your flop here.
I was really hoping that you wouldn't have brought yours out because I know that you made the same flop and I was going to call you on it, but okay. I guess you burnt me on that one a little bit. All right. So yeah, when I first started flip learning, I would assign videos and I would assign these little quizzes that go with them. And these quizzes would self-grade and it would give students the feedback, but then I never really did anything with that data. And that is kind of my flop there. So I used Sophia.org, and it easily allowed you to make videos and then insert these questions into the videos, almost like what Edpuzzle does now. All right. And I never used the data. I never used the data to like identify misconceptions that a lot of students were having. And really, I just felt distant. I felt very distant away from my students. I felt like I wasn't taking the opportunity of using the data to meet with them one-on-one and really try to, level off these misconceptions so they can grow in that unit or with that content. So I did it in sophia.org. I also did it in another platform called BlendSpace, where I made this playlist. Basically, it's a whole bunch of squares, and it's now called TES Teach. So it's been quite a number of years since I've actually used the program. But I did it there as well. I would have 15 different activities for the unit, and I would have them go through each one almost like a Poggle or a web quest, and there's different activities. Kids are doing this station rotation type method, and then I just didn't collect data until the end, or if I had a quiz in the middle, and it was a total disaster. I had so many learning opportunities that were wasted.
Yeah, man. I mean, I get what resonated with me is when you said you felt distant from the kids in this time, because that's kind of when I made a similar mistake, that's how it felt for me too. You sort of take for granted, in that environment that everybody's progressing okay. But as I found out, that might not necessarily be true. Just like if you are in front of the class teaching and then you send them off to do a quick little exit slip, and you're gathering that data on what everybody understood, or if you're teaching and you're kind of watching to see who's following, or if you're questioning them as you go, all of those moves that you used to make, you got to still do that. You have to still be that facilitator in the room. Embarrassingly though, this is like formative assessment 101. What were you doing? What was I doing? What happened here, man? And more importantly, how can we prevent this from happening a second time?
Well, first of all, I think I just got caught up in the excitement of trying something new. And for the most part, the students were enjoying it.
Yes.
So I think I got caught up in that moment, and I really didn't take a step back. But I do some reflection in my practice, and that was one of the biggest things. And I'm pretty sure my supervisor asked me what I did for formative assessment and how I used that data, and I just looked at her like a deer in headlights. But I mean, there are a couple things. We need to continue to plan these little formative assessments, whether they're do nows, question of the day, exit tickets, checkpoints. Especially if you're doing a playlist, a checkpoint is a great way of doing that. And then because all the students are at one particular stop area in that checkpoint, that's when you really want to take a look at that data and see if you could identify misconceptions and see if you can really use the whole group effort to eliminate any misconceptions in the content. You could also do formative gamification. That will get you some quick instant feedback using quizzes, GimKit, Kahoot, Quizalize, Quizlet, Google Forms, all those. They will all give you instant feedback that you can use and put into your practice. So with all that data, you really want to make educational decisions based on that data. And lastly, and this is a huge piece, a huge advantage of flipped learning. Flipped learning affords you the opportunity to meet students in small groups. You have the ability to have them do independent learning or small group learning while meeting with other small groups or even individually. And that's huge in the growth of students, especially for those that don't like to speak out. It gives you that time that you can meet with them to see where they're at and help them meet their needs.
I'll say too, as we get Kyle back in here to start wrapping things up, how about, sure, you're in this flipped classroom now and your kids are all watching videos at their own pace. That doesn't prevent you from getting up in front of the room and doing a little bit of direct guided instruction from time to time. And in fact, I found that if I was up in front of the class randomly throughout the class period for only 5-7 minutes at a time, explaining things, the amount of focus you get, the amount of attention that's on you now is insane compared to the amount of attention and focus you get when you're spending 20, 30, maybe even 40 minutes of lecture in class. So let's not forget that you can still do that, and you'll increase the power that it has tenfold. So I think that's an important thing to mention here too.
Yeah, guys, that was wow. That was, I don't even know where to begin there, but I'm going to piggyback on what you just said there, Nick. And I think even what you said, Eric, too, as far as like the formative assessment, that's like formative assessment 101. So you sound a lot like me, Eric, where you just kind of get really into something and you go like full steam ahead, and all of a sudden you kind of sometimes leave all the good stuff you learned behind, and because you're so focused on this new amazing idea, and like you said, you have to include all the good stuff, the good formative assessment. Nick, like you said, direct instruction still has a place sometimes. So I think that's a huge takeaway too, is that this is not a replacement of good teaching. This is just another way to do it in addition to all the other good stuff that you're already doing. So just don't forget all the good stuff you're already doing.
Yeah, I know that you like to use, analogies and things like that, but I just picture the cartoon where there's bank robbers and they take all this cash and they're in the car and they take off, and before you know it, all the cash flies out the window. They have nothing. They're not reaping any of the spoil. That's what I kind of felt like with this flipped learning.
Yeah. So I mean, that was last episode too. I went too big on the choice. I mean, it's really easy to go big when you find stuff that's exciting and is working. So, I mean, that's a big takeaway from today is don't forget the good stuff that you still were already doing. So, all right. But I mean, Nick, I'll let you kind of recap the real main points of today and tell everyone about next week's episode.
Great. So here's a quick recap of what we talked about in today's episode. First of all, make sure you plan as many formative assessments as possible, which Geis did not do. And you want to make sure to use all of that data to help support the educational decisions that you're making for your students in that class. Lastly, don't forget that you still need to facilitate your classroom. You're still the teacher. The Chromebooks cannot do the whole thing. Use the time afforded by flipped learning to meet with students in small groups and other engaging opportunities like that. For next week, you can stay tuned for the release of our next episode Wednesday at 8:30 p.m., where you can listen to my flop, where I thought my students knew more about ed tech than me, a giant mistake. In the meantime, remember to subscribe at TreefishEDU.com/virtualpd. We will not spam you. We'll just send you gentle reminders about upcoming episodes and other opportunities through TreefishEDU. Thanks for watching.